What can we do when our last hope fails?
You are the lone hero tasked with saving the world on the brink of devastation by a supernatural force. You progress, you die, you revive, and you continue on. This is the essence of the Soulsborne genre. It is as punishing as it is rewarding. Death is a mechanic, and disappointment is your motivation to persist. Eventually, your persistence becomes competence, and your ability to navigate the lands rewards you with a deeper understanding of your surroundings. You not only play the game, but take residence in that world. The Remnant series, on the surface, appears to be Dark Souls with guns, but it takes the immersive storytelling from the Soulsborne genre and turns it on its head. While Elden Ring lets you decide the nature of your experience based on exploration, then uses that to dictate your gameplay and story, the Remnant series uses its gameplay cycle to dictate your experience and tell you what the world's true nature really is. Never-ending hopelessness. Motherfucker! More reload. What the? For that. Okay. Fuck. Oh, I don't have any more fucking heals. Today we're going to take a deep look into the Remnant series and discuss how its gameplay and story reflect the nihilistic nature of the world it takes place in. To understand how these games illustrate the world's true nature, let's start by recapping the series from the points in which you take control of your character. If you haven't played Chronos Before the Ashes, Remnant From the Ashes, the DLC Subject 2923, or Remnant 2, there are massive spoilers ahead. In Chronos Before the Ashes, an unknown amount of time has taken place since the Scouring. Beasts led by the mysterious dragon invaded the Earth and decimated the population. Less than 1% of a regressed humanity remains scattered across the planet in small tribes. In your village, the crone tasked you with venturing to a faraway island to scale the tower made of rusted iron to locate the glowing stone. The stone activates but once a year, and by touching it, you will be taken to another world. You must find the dragon in its home and kill it, for the scourge is not as strong as it once was, but humanity can never recover without the threat neutralized. But you are warned, if you fail your mission, you will be returned home to train and try again 1 year later. This is now your life's mission. So our hero rows to the island and explores the rusted and abandoned Ward 16. Part of the facility is locked off, and on the other side of an observation room, you see some of the scourge, but you have no time to waste. You must activate the stone, and once activated, the stone glows bright red, and upon touching it, you are whisked away to the world of the Krell. We try to find a way to get to the dragon, and we fail, rather unceremoniously. The screen fades, and we wait momentarily in a black silence. Suddenly, there's a bright white light and we're ejected from the stone, a year older in mere seconds. Although it feels as though no time has passed, we find that we've grown wiser and stronger. We try again and again, and each failure makes us stronger. We gain endurance, we become more agile. But the Krell remain the same and don't appear to have aged. They continue their cyclical lives, they respawn and reset, and nearly everything remains the same, except for any items we've affected. We eventually make progress and find an unlikely ally, a tree that has been trapped, unable to grow any further than the confines of a room.
You have come to defeat the dragon, an ambitious quest. Given the overwhelming power he possesses, a quest you cannot achieve unaided.
It knows that we are here to kill the dragon, but in our current state, we are far too weak to succeed. Furthermore, 3 guardians prevent the hero from progressing, but fortunately for us, the enemy of our enemy is our friend. The guardian of the Krell restricts the tree to this room, and if we can eliminate the guardians, the tree will have the power to send us directly to our goal. We agree, and it infests us, literally taking root in our arm, and gives us the gift of magic. So without considering the tree's obviously evil voice, we kill anyone standing in our way. After defeating the guardian of the Krell, we journey to the land of the Pan to slay its guardian. On Yesha, we find a journal chronicling an expedition to this world, led by someone named Ford. After defeating Yesha's guardian, we finally eliminate the guardian of the labyrinth, connecting all the worlds. We fail many, many times. We started as a young man or woman and now have approached middle age. This has been our lifelong obsession. Once all the guardians have been slain, we return to the tree, now a mammoth entity of roots and bark stretching out across the room, piercing the ceiling and floor. Its power has returned, and it has opened a portal directly to where we can find the dragon. We enter the portal and find ourselves in Ward 17, near where we started this quest so many years ago. But now, massive roots twist and bend through the halls, the facility has been devastated by roots, and the scourge populates the building. With newfound access to Ward 17, the hero finds offices. Computer logs vaguely give explanation to what happened on Earth. The scouring may have been caused by someone named Harsgard, using something called Dreamers. One log notes the beginning of the scouring, a last-ditch attempt to confine the invading scourge from reaching the surface. The same team that was on Yesha tried to hold them off, but unfortunately, everyone was killed, including their leader Ford. Then, a year later, Ford and his team were miraculously revived from the stone. A year had passed for them in merely a moment. Life continued without them, just as it has for you every time you died. You never went back to the village to train. You just ceased to exist. In the deep lower recesses of Ward 17, we find a lone human lying on a gurney with a device on their head. It's one of the dreamers mentioned in the logs. We reach out to investigate and they suddenly grab us, transferring us mentally to nothingness, where we finally meet the dragon with an oddly familiar voice.
How little you grasp, you and the rest of your tiny species. You are mayflies, amoebas, flickering into some semblance of life and dying before your first breath grows cold.
It is here that we learn that everything we've done has been in vain. We aided the very entity we hope to destroy. With every guardian slain, we expanded its reach and allowed it to take root in other worlds. And now, it intends to invade Earth once again. After a long battle with the dragon, we finally defeat it, but he merely laughs at our efforts. He divulges his final plan for us.
My link to your world had grown old and feeble, but now, thanks to your primitive savagery, that link shall be restored. And with my captors dead, you are rendered the doorway. Thanks to you, the dragon shall be unbound.
We will be replacing the old, weak dreamer to bolster his connection to the Earth for another invasion. We then wake up back in Ward 17, standing in front of the dreamer, as we were just moments ago. The dreamer arrives on the gurney and dies. But before we can even react to what has just happened, Harsgard, appearing to have been assimilated by the scourge, sedates us, straps us to the gurney, and makes us the new dreamer, the connection to the scourge's homeworld. Over the next month, the Scourge makes a resurgence on Earth. Its literal roots have spread throughout the planet, leading to the entity to be known as the Root now. The village that sent the hero and Chronos has now sent the Wanderer to investigate the cause of the second calamity and stop it by any means possible. Now we, the Wanderer, head back to Ward 16 to find the glowing crystal, but are nearly killed by the Root. Before we die, we are saved by a group of scavengers, and we awaken within Ward 13. We quickly feel out of place. The residents have not seen another living person in a long, long time. Saving us was a detriment to their survival because it led the route right to their reinforced doorstep. So aside from the novelty of our presence, some of the survivors want us to immediately prove our value or leave. They are running low on supplies, rations, weapons, and time. The leader of this group, Commander Ellen Ford, shares these sentiments. Before we can ask for any help, we need to help the group in return. Although we were just on the brink of death, to her we are expendable until proven worthy. So she tasked us with taking care of a breach that would allow the route to enter through the back of the ward. After defending the ward, we are welcomed with a more civilized conversation from the commander. We inquire about the tower on the atoll in the distance and inform her of our mission. Ford tells us there is a way to get to the atoll, but the only person that could do so has been missing for decades, her grandfather and founder of Ward 13, Andrew Ford. Commander Ford suggests we visit the founder's hideouts for answers to his whereabouts, but since the route is so close to Ward 13, the front door is out of the question. The only way out is through the World Stone. We initiate the World Stone and travel to Founder Ford's hideout, and we find journals detailing his search for a way off Earth and discover a letter to Ellen. In the letter, the founder informs the commander that he's in search of the Root Mother. Because of her connection to the Root, she will have the answer for a way off of Earth. We tear through the streets searching for this Root Mother, and what we find is something we could never have imagined. A woman entwined with the Root. Her body is no longer her own. She shares her existence with the Root, and because of that, she is part of their hive mind. After explaining our need to find Founder Ford, the Root Mother agrees to help, but first, she needs to be separated from the Root. Otherwise, they will know everything. As she tries to break free of their bond, we defend her as the Root swarm her for attempting to separate. Freed, she returns to Ward 13. When we ask about Founder Ford, she appears to have a vision. She instructs us to follow his footsteps, and to do so, we need to find the Shimmering Tower, the entrance to the labyrinth, the crossroads between the worlds. In the labyrinth, we find the Keeper and inquire about Founder Ford's whereabouts and a way to the atoll. The Keeper is skeptical and busy. He explains that the labyrinth is in a fragile state because the Devourer killed multiple World Guardians and the Root is free to roam the worlds. But we have no idea what he's talking about, so he breaks it down for us. Every world, except Earth, has a Guardian that prevents the Root from entering. But if that Guardian dies, the Root can freely invade and grow stronger. Earth, on the other hand, is deemed inviolable, secure of trespass because it is the core of existence. It doesn't have a guardian because it doesn't need one. It was only ever invaded by the Root because they were invited in. The Keeper continues that because the labyrinth potentially holds a door to any world in existence or imagined, the path to Founder Ford exists within, and so he allows us to roam the labyrinth in peace. We find an open gate with notes pinned next to it from Founder Ford, describing the world on the other side as Rom. One note focuses on its leader, the Undying King, so we enter the desert ruins of Rom in search of the Undying King for further guidance. In our conversation with him, we learned that Rom's guardian has been keeping the king alive, but it is weak, and it's becoming harder to keep the Root at bay. But unless there is an intervention, it will eventually die, and the Root will eventually invade. To help keep their world safe, the Undying King caused a nuclear holocaust and destroyed their vastly futuristic society and wiped out the population. The Root is attracted to life, and this strategy has allowed Rom to be under its radar. But as the planet repopulates, the Root will make their attempt to conquer that world. The Undying King reveals that he can help us find Ford. In fact, he has the key that we need to open the world's door in the labyrinth, but we must do him a favor. Kill the Guardian of Corsus and bring him its heart. He intends to use that heart to rejuvenate Rom's Guardian so that it can protect the world. So he opens a portal to Corsus and wishes us luck. On the swamp planet of Corsus, we find the Iskall Queen, the arrogant leader of the world. On Corsus, all is Iskall. If they are a different species, it too is Iskall, and the Iskall are magnificent. She assimilated all the races of the planet, and they live under one hive mind, much like the Root, with the exception of the Guardian. She wishes for us to kill her world's Guardian and bring her its heart to strengthen herself so that when the Root invades, she too can assimilate it as well. The choice is ours, or this entire section of the story can be skipped by immediately rejecting the Undying King's request, killing him, taking the Labyrinth Key, and dooming Rom. Likewise, if we give the heart to the Iskall Queen, we'll be forced to face the Undying King to get the key. Back in the labyrinth, we find the door the key opens, leading to the forest planet of Yesha, where we quickly find ourselves caught in a battle between rebels and the royal court. The leader of the rebels, Yavum, is friends with Founder Ford and tells us he was captured decades ago by the Queen and locked in the ziggurat. Although at least 1 month has passed since the ending of Chronos, Yasha has yet to be fully invaded by the Root, so finding Ford is easier than expected, and it doesn't take long to convince him to help us get to the source of the Root. So we head back to Ward 13, and Founder Ford instructs us to go deeper into the facility and power up a gateway that leads directly to Ward 17. This was how he escaped to Ward 13 so many years ago. In Ward 17, we find a familiar sight, a person lying on a gurney with a device on their head. It's the hero, the current bridge to the Earth the Root used to invade a second time. We touch the Dreamer, enter their mind, and destroy the entity within.
Once again, the children of the core think to change the inevitable. They do not see the truth, the futility of their actions. We bring purity to chaos, serenity to bedlam. All will be consumed. This is necessary and good. No matter how many times they rise, they will be destroyed. We will consume.
With the Dreamer and Nightmare dead, we've severed the Root's connection to Earth, and they will eventually die off. A year after the events of Remnant from the Ashes, the Root attacks still haven't completely subsided. Looking for a true solution to Earth's salvation, the Wanderer returns to Ward 13. We speak to Founder Ford and learn the location of Ward Prime, the original World Stone test site, the only possible place where the Root could still be connected to our world. Inside Ward Prime, we find a labyrinthian facility that is patrolled by large, incorporeal Root monsters. It appears they do not see us and cannot touch us until we unwittingly interact with the sphere that glows similarly to the World Stone. Suddenly, we are pulled into its plane of existence and it stalks after us relentlessly. Every time we down it, it falls momentarily, it rises, fully healed, and continues its murderous pursuit. Realizing this battle can never be won, we touch the sphere again to bring us back to reality. But navigating Ward Prime proves to be difficult as heavily reinforced bulbs of the Root block our paths. We touch the sphere again, and while avoiding the monster, we find that the bulbs are vulnerable in this plane of reality. We unlock the facility piece by piece, destroying the roadblocks built by the Root. With Ward Prime now fully available to explore, we turn on the power and find that it is a treasure trove of information. The computers, now operational, piece together the timeline of events that led to the Root's invasion of Earth. This is where all the experiments started, and the location where a World Stone was destroyed. Back in 1960, a structure was found deep underground, covered in ruins. It contained lenses to be used as a cipher key and a unique stone crystal. Dr. Harsgard was the only person able to decipher the code, and says it was left by an entity he refers to as Clawbone. The runes were a message from Clawbone depicting a society so advanced that they were free of pain and suffering, death and disease. The message stated that their goal was to share their knowledge with as many worlds as they can, and the crystal, the World Stone, is the device used to open the path between worlds. Dr. Harsgard learns that the mind is the gateway to viewing other worlds. The right ones just need to be found. And so, under Clawbone's tutelage, the Dreamer Project began. They connected subjects to a machine that allowed the scientists to view these faraway worlds. These dreamers connect to the world they dream of through the guardian of that domain, psychically linking the two. For better control of the connection and to emit emotion from the equation, the dreamers were put into a state of lucid dreaming and strapped to a machine to regulate their emotions and keep the connection stable. But even with these safeguards, they couldn't regulate the effect of the guardians on the dreamers. One dreamer was able to emit emotions of negativity, causing mass depression, leading to the mass murder-suicide of an entire ward. Another dreamer burst into flames while sedated and set the test room on fire, killing everyone inside. Then there was the unfortunate case of the dreamer Gabriel, who, while connected to a guardian, suddenly died because the residents of that world killed its guardian. Although all signs suggested that these experiments should stop immediately, the scientists still tried to take their experiments to the next level. Instead of merely viewing these locations, they intended to use a world stone to send an expedition to visit the world they deemed relatively safe. They connected another dreamer to Gabriel's world, but they found something unusual. The guardian that they linked to had all the memories of the previous guardian, but its personality was vastly different. It was malevolent and took joy in massacring its world's residents. The expedition was expeditiously canceled. The most powerful dreamer, codenamed Clementine, connected to a world called Resum. Her connection to the Guardian was especially strong. While linked, her physiology changed, requiring the room to be kept at an extremely low temperature to mimic the environment the Guardian resided in. But one day, she just vanished without a trace. Not long after, Arsgard connected another dreamer to a world that appeared to be total nothingness. No sounds, no visuals, just the void. He had finally found Clawbone's world and invited the root to Earth. In an effort to completely explore Ward Prime, we find that there is only an area behind a blast door left to check. We open the blast door and find a much larger root bulb encasing what appears to be a portal. So we destroy the bulb and reveal the portal that shows us a snowy environment on the other side. And so we enter Resum and immediately find a young woman on the other side waiting for us. As we approach her, the root attempts to follow us from Ward Prime, but with some unknown power, she is able to reject its entry. Before we can speak to her, she departs in the hand of the enormous guardian of Resum. After searching for this young woman throughout Resum, we find her and the Guardian under a huge portal. The Guardian fights back another root invasion, but with the root's newly bolstered strength, its tactic is to wear the Guardian down. The woman uses her power to heal the Guardian after its battle, but she realizes that this is a losing fight, and it can only end at its source. This woman's name is Clementine, the dreamer we read about in the logs, and although she's reluctant to return to Earth, she comes with us back to Ward Prime. Her time with the Guardian has now given her incredible power, and she uses it to manipulate the portal and direct it to the source of the root. We enter the portal and face a root monstrosity. It's Harsgard. His century assimilated with the root has transformed him into a mutated amalgam of flesh and bark. Around him float 6 pieces of worldstone, presumably the tools used to connect Earth, the land of the Krell, Geisha, Ram, Corsus, and Resum. We battle the traitorous Harsgard in this strange altered reality. The stones fire beams that resemble the portal we used to get here. Explosions now have pixelated effects, making us question if these are just symptoms of this reality or the others aren't really what they seem. When we believe we've stopped him, he becomes empowered and traps us in roots. But before he can kill us with a final blow, Clementine uses her power to protect us, arming us with far more suitable weapons to eliminate Harsgard. Harsgard triples in size and grows additional appendages. The true final battle begins. The monstrosity attacks with more fervor, but we whittle down his health until he finally dies, forever cutting off the root's connection to our Earth. We celebrate with Clementine, but she refuses to come back with us to Ward 13. For her, that's where she was a prisoner, simply known as Test Subject 2923. "20 years later, the root population on Earth has fallen dramatically. We're introduced to the Traveler and Cassie as they search for Ward 13. The Traveler and Cassie have grown to be friends over the last few weeks as they've helped each other get through the ruins. But Cassie has been infected by the root, and every day she goes without treatment threatens her life. After receiving a reliable tip that Ward 13 is nearby, the pair search for clues to its location. We, now as the Traveler, find that there's no passage on the surface and convince Cassie to cut through the sewers with us. The further we go, the more the surroundings become alien, and soon we are overwhelmed by a swarm of root. We are figuratively outgunned and easily dispatched. But as we take our last breath, Clementine and others from Ward 13 save us. Over the last 20 years, Clementine has barely aged. She uses her powers to deflect the root, and we are administered a dragon heart, reviving us. We fight our way through the root hive and finally reach Ward 13. The residents of Ward 13 have moved above ground and are far more acceptable of outsiders. They quickly take Cassie to get treatment and suggest we introduce ourselves to Founder Ford. We interrupt an argument between Ford and Clementine that they quickly cut short. Ford greets us by telling us that we were expected, according to someone named Wallace. We are amazed to meet Ford, knowing that he's well over 100 years old. When we ask how he stayed alive, he cryptically makes reference to the World Stone. He asks us for help but requests that we meet Wallace ourselves, then gear up. Wallace alludes to being able to see the future, or perhaps the past. His grasp of time when it comes to events are muddled, as though he's seen the future events in a past life. He tells us that we are here to help a woman that we know, but at the same time, we don't know yet. Then he directs us to continue getting our gear and finding Ford. We find Ford at the entrance of the old ward. It's been abandoned for years and is disheveled, but just where we last saw it as the Wanderer lies the World Stone, depowered. Since the generator is no longer hooked up to provide power to the stone, Ford uses a piece of the labyrinth to activate it. Then he says the stone is too dangerous and instructs us to destroy this place. He wants us to detonate explosives in the ward and bury the World Stone beneath the rubble. He then touches the stone and vanishes before our eyes. Having followed us into the old ward, Clementine appears behind us. She can't believe he actually left and inquires if he taught us how to use the World Stone. That as she approaches the World Stone, the voice of the Keeper can be heard.
System failure is imminent. The core has been compromised. The utility is required.
A power reaches out to Clementine to pull her into the stone. She begs us not to let her go, but we're unable to help. She vanishes as well. Against our better judgment, we touch the stone and arrive in a different world. The uncertainty of the stone sends us to one of three worlds: Yesha, Narud, or Losum. And chance can take us down two separate paths on each world. We fight through the world searching for Clementine. Eventually, we come to the end of all that is explorable and face a world boss. Upon defeating the world boss, we obtain a glowing white object resembling a cluster of pixels. With no idea what the strange object is, we touch the World Stone to return home, but we can't. Instead, we are pulled into the stone and ejected out into the labyrinth. The labyrinth defends itself against us, sending out drones as we unlock pathway after pathway towards the center. Near the white light we've been chasing, a new, simpler guardian of the labyrinth blocks our last leg of the journey. It's more of a puzzle than an active threat, and after getting past it, we finally approach the center. We make our way up the steps towards the center and are attacked by a large digital eye, but before it can strike us down, Clementine tells it to stop. She is amazed to see we actually came to find her, but she assures us that she's not in any danger. In fact, she's needed here. She asks us how we got here, and we show her the strange object we obtained. The eye, the Keeper, calls it a segment and scans us, referring to us now as the anomaly. Clementine and the Keeper explain that with the World Stone reactivated on Earth, the root infection is guaranteed to infect many more worlds, and the entire system of the labyrinth is destined to fail. But with this segment, there are now two additional possibilities. It then tasks us to find more segments, but Clementine must stay in the labyrinth. Her ability to keep the root at bay is necessary to buy us time. The Keeper then gives us the key to open the doors in the labyrinth and search for segments in other worlds. We visit the last two worlds and acquire two more segments, and when we return to the labyrinth, we find Clementine and the Keeper working together to maintain the system. The Keeper has now returned to his more humanoid form, but lacking definition, almost like a 3D game model of his previous form without the skinning. He recalls that in the past, the root infection was able to travel to another world twice, and both times it was quarantined. This is most likely a reference to the world Gabriel was connected to, and Earth. When the root's number began to die down on both worlds, that was the efforts of the Keeper quarantining it. But when the hero slayed the Labyrinth Guardian and Chronos, the root was able to infiltrate the core indefinitely and spread to other worlds unchecked. All efforts to contain the root ended in failure, and so the Keeper erased the labyrinth and every realm connected. But the root-infested core could not be deleted because the root partitioned themselves outside of the labyrinth system. But the segments we brought to the Keeper was a failsafe, and when combined, become the index, allowing us to access the root's home world. We depart through a newly created portal to enter Root Earth, the devastated core of a previous system. The environment has been completely transformed. Root stretch as far as the eye can see, as though the planet itself has been assimilated. Everything that moves is Root. No one from Earth survived. We fight our way through Root Earth, encountering the most dangerous root we've ever faced, and the highest density we've ever seen them in. Eventually, we make it to the center, the source, but it's locked behind a barrier. Fortunately, Clementine and the Keeper arrive to assist us. We've noticed that the Keeper's personality has changed. He's behaving less like a mechanism designed to protect us and more like a human that hopes we succeed. Clementine's connection to the Keeper has altered his personality, just as she did when she was connected to Reesum's guardian. She's absorbing the Keeper's power and leaving a lasting influence on him. Clementine uses her power to break down the barrier where we finally face annihilation, the source of the root. It is enormous, relentless, and quick, but after a long battle, we finally destroy it. At least, we think we did. Suddenly, we are warped into another battlefield where reality is being torn apart at its seams. Annihilation takes on a new form in this much smaller space, utilizing the cozier environment to its advantage. It swings its massive blade at us, and then suddenly, there's a glitch. We're back on the previous battlefield, and Annihilation's original form completes the incoming attack. In this realm, it can literally change our reality, switching back and forth to disorient us. We finish off the mammoth monster, and everything goes back to normal. The beast falls, but it's not over. Annihilation begins to rise again. The Keeper is devastated. The root have become inviolate, and with the portal open to the labyrinth, it will spread uncontrollably. Only two outcomes remain: permanent destruction of the system, or the system is reset again. The Keeper, now grown to care, is hesitant to start over, but Clementine knows that there is another choice. Clementine snatches the index from the Keeper and activates it. She glows white and the Keeper is absorbed by her. All across the worlds, the residents begin to fade into the same white light and travel to her and the index. After the residents, the worlds themselves follow, and finally, we are absorbed as well, until there is nothing left but the index floating in darkness. The Keeper, now all alone, looks at the index, but without the power to do anything, he simply turns to walk away. But just as he turns, the index pulses, then the light consumed begins to jet out. The worlds are restored, including the labyrinth. Then follows the people that reside in those worlds. Back in the void, the Keeper continues to watch the light leave the index, cut off from this new system, and as the light fades, we suddenly wake on Earth, a remnant of this previous system. Remnant is a series of tales that uses its gameplay to tell three different stories at once. One is a timeline of events of a world stuck in a loop. The second is a meta-narrative where our perceived choices are the predetermined machinations of the game. And the third is an allegory depicting the struggle of keeping a game series relevant. In the end, the last choice we all make eventually as gamers is turning off the game for the final time. Each game has its own central theme. Chronos tells the story of an apathetic hero. It's the stage where we play a new game for the first time and we know nothing about the protagonist, the world, or why we follow the story prompts to kill whatever we are told. We genuinely don't care in the beginning, but we hope that with time, we get to know this character and the game will reward us with a satisfying ending. We killed the Guardians, even after speaking to locals and reading documents depicting them as crucial parts of their world. We don't care because they are preventing us from our end goal. In the end, we and the hero both get what we want, and it always ends the same way. The hero fights the dragon, we see the end credits, and both of us have a bitter pill to swallow. The original release of Chronos looked like this. We were on the outside looking in. Although we controlled the hero, they were never really our avatar. We merely influenced them from a distance through a device strapped to our head, kind of like a dreamer. And when Harsgard strapped the device to the hero's head in the conclusion, we removed our Oculus and brought the narrative to a full circle. The Oculus wasn't the most popular gaming device, so many gamers didn't realize Remnant From the Ashes was a sequel. The game's theme was choice. With the story now being told from the action game third-person perspective, we were more possessive of our character. We chose our clothing, weapons, modifiers, amulets, and rings. We can choose to play alone or with friends. We can even choose to skip an entire quarter of the game if we decided to. Every choice we made influenced the game. Encounters could be talked through instead of fought. You can choose how to defeat a boss for different rewards. You could find an item that appears to be useless, but if you choose to revisit an area you've previously explored, you may find it unlocks a device. On that same note, when you started your game and a friend started theirs, their worlds would be vastly different, inviting you to choose to play again. The DLC, Subject 2923 is about contrivance, artificially laying out the story for us to have a better grasp of the events to keep us interested in the series. We follow a linear path to finding Ward Prime, where we explicitly learn how the series started. Then, coincidentally, we meet the Dreamer Clementine and witness firsthand the relationship between the Guardians, the Dreamers, and the Root. After learning everything necessary, defeating the DLC boss Harsgard is supposed to give us closure, just in case another sequel wasn't possible. But the question that should be considered is, why did the Root abandon Harsgard to the Wanderer? In Remnant 2, we find out that the Wanderer returned to Ward 13 with good news, then just left, never to be seen again. We saw everything Remnant from the Ashes had to offer, and as with the rest of our collection, we stopped playing. But Remnant 2 did arrive, and its gameplay appeared to reflect the themes of the previous games. The apathy of tearing through fully fleshed out worlds with no attachment to them, the choice in randomization that gives you different variants of realms containing different bosses with the choice to alter their battle, the contrivance of being whisked to Clementine again and given insight to the backstory. We learned that the original story ended in Chronos. The hero invited the Root back to Earth, and they spread to every world uncontrollably. The world we're playing in is just a remake of a previous iteration, and had we not been introduced to the world, the same thing would have happened again and again. This game's central theme is nihilism. Everyone does whatever they can to survive, but does it even matter when the Root are destined to always exist and spread? Have the realms of Losum, Nerud, and Yesha ever mattered? Is it worth engaging with their lore when it's just going to end with their erasure and starting from scratch? In Remnant 2, the allegory of the struggle of being a video game becomes real. The labyrinth is the backbone of the game. Earth is the core where the hero always starts from, and the outlying realms are the options for where the hero can go. That's why there's a science fiction option, a high fantasy option, and a familiar option in Yesha. The Keeper describes the Root as a computer virus. Clementine is the utility, computer software intended to configure, analyze, monitor, and maintain the system. The Index contains the names and locations of all the files on the system, and we are the anomaly, part of the system that exhibits unexpected behavior. Although our avatar is part of the system, we, the player, can make independent choices. The Root, on the other hand, is a virus because it has a very specific purpose: engage us. The Root is the representation of the ultimate video game antagonist. Its destructive programming is designed to give us the purpose to come back and play. If you go back to Ward 13 and speak to Wallace, he reveals that his ability to see future events is because he, like Evelyn Ford, has a connection to the Root, and the Root thinks about us all the time. It's how he knew we would find the Ward, and why his perception of events are muddled. The Root have seen these events happen time and time again. This is why during the final fight in Subject 2923, the Root abandoned Harsgard to be killed by the Wanderer. It's all part of the cycle. Fighting the Root is our purpose as much as the Root fighting us is its purpose. Otherwise, there is no purpose or meaning at all. But now, here we are at the end of Remnant 2 with two options. Either Clementine created a save state at the point in which she was pulled into the crystal, or we live in a new world where the Keeper is in a void and locked outside the system altogether. I'd love to hear your theories in the comments, but my personal theory is that the Keeper becomes corrupted and becomes the Root. By the end of Remnant 2, he desires to not reset the system, actively fighting against his programming. Also, the environment he was left in is exactly as the original Root homeworld was described. Since the Labyrinth system can be reset, a specific date, time, and year on Earth is only specific to that particular iteration. So Earth year 1960 could be a future event for the Keeper, since his time will always continue linearly. I guess we'll just have to wait and see though. Before I end, I want to thank you for watching, and also thank Viking Gaming, Neat Pick, Eros Thanatos, Shirako, and Road to VR. My new computer failed and I lost most of my original gameplay footage, but I really wanted to make this video. I'm Late to the Gamer, this is Console Control Gaming. Please hit that like button and tell me where you think the Remnant series is headed to in the comments. Have a good day.